Okay, good morning. This is Richard Hsu, host of Hsu Untied. This morning, I'm really pleased to have with me as my guest Joe Santiesteban, who's a partner at Orrick. Joe, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Really glad to be here.
So, Joe, I invited you because your resume has something I don't come across a lot. As you know, in my profession, I talk to a lot of lawyers, a lot of law firm partners, and it's kind of rare to see a law firm partner at a big law firm that started their college career at junior college. I'll just say that. That's just not the usual path. So, I'd love to talk to you about that and maybe just start by asking you, why you chose that path and what was your experience there?
Yeah, after high school, I was not ready for college. Didn't necessarily want to go, didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Mm,
Um, but I had spent a couple summers working with individuals, like adults and kids with disabilities. And so I took a job at a nonprofit doing that same work, working with adults and kids with disabilities in residential programs, in day programs, in a school setting, and worked there for about 4 or 5 years.
hmm,
And got to the point in my career where I really couldn't go any further
hmm,
without a degree. And I kind of had this very real conversation with my director at the time and was looking at different paths going forward. And the reality was there was just nowhere for me to go without a degree.
hmm,
And so at that point, the option that I had was a community college in California called West Valley College,
hmm.
which was near my house, which I had had some friends go to. And so I went back with a pretty um, open mind as to what exactly I was going to be studying. I don't think
Hmm.
any path was settled, but um, I went back to find what was going to be next.
Interesting. So did you go to junior college because it was going to be cheaper than, I mean, why if you need to get a degree, why not go to a four-year college, for example?
Yeah, well, when you're 5 years out of school, there probably wasn't a 4 year that was going to take me. I
Mm,
started with pretty remedial English, pretty
hmm,
remedial math.
hmm,
Um, I also, I grew to appreciate this over time. I don't think I necessarily knew it when I started, uh, but the classes are smaller. There's a lot more like individualized attention and and opportunities as
hmm,
well.
hmm.
And so community college was really just the right place for me to step my foot back in education.
So you had quit high school and worked for 4 years or 5 years before going to junior college?
Correct.
Okay, so you were an older college student as well.
Yes, yeah. It wasn't as much
Mm.
apparent, I would say. When I went back, I was definitely older. But by the time I was done with undergrad, by then I was really one of the
Yeah,
the
right.
older kids in school, and it
Oh,
was definitely
interesting.
noticeable.
Huh. And what was your goal going to junior college? Were you trying to get a degree in what, or did you even know?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at things that kind of would have been in the same area, like psychology or sociology initially,
Hmm, hmm,
but I bounced around. I fell in love with journalism my
hmm,
first year and ended
hmm,
up becoming like the editor of the school newspaper there. I really liked my like the English classes and writing.
hmm,
Where things though really took a turn was during my second year there. I met
hmm.
a professor, I'm going to call him out, his name's Sam Liu, who
Okay.
was teaching economics, who had gone to MIT and Princeton and spent a long time as like an expert consultant
Yeah.
and kind of came back to a community college with his whole goal of creating opportunities.
Hmm.
And his class was super interesting. He thought about careers and life in a way that I had never experienced. Um, he really took an interest in me and helped both kind of like academically and professionally
Hmm.
shine a whole new kind of light
Hmm.
in terms of what was possible.
Hmm.
And from there, I really started focusing a lot more on economics and political science.
Interesting. Well, did he inspire you to think about law school? Because I assume that's coming up in the picture at some point, or it was before that even.
So, yes, in a little bit of a roundabout way.
Okay.
So, what he did do that was instrumental was connect me for an interview with a friend of his named Ray Ha at Genentech.
Okay.
to work for the summer in their research contracts department.
Okay.
So helping negotiate early stage research contracts. And for those, like basically my job was to help Genentech scientists get materials in, license materials in, or to take Genentech materials and out license them.
Mm-hmm.
And in that role, I worked hand in hand with lawyers.
Huh.
So basically, every time there was like a contentious point, or a provision needed interpretation, or I didn't know whether I could do something, I was working with corporate lawyers and IP lawyers uh, in that capacity. And I
Hmm.
really loved the way they thought. I really loved the more advanced problems that they were getting to solve. I really loved just talking to them and hearing about kind of the other work that they were doing.
Yeah, right.
And that is ultimately what led me to want to go to law school. So I was in undergrad working at Genentech with
Hmm.
lawyers, studying studying political science and economics, and that made me want to go to
Hmm.
law school.
Pretty amazing you can get that job that Genentech would even hire like undergrads or non-college students. I mean, that seems pretty unusual. I mean, most non-college graduates have a hard time finding that kind of a job.
Yes, I would. This is why I owe a lot to Sam and Ray and my community college. Like they definitely took a shot. I think the other people that they were looking to hire probably
Hmm.
had a degree.
Hmm.
Uh, the person who I was there to kind of cover for in my initial capacity had a degree.
Hmm.
Um, I think mm, the way that I was able to take advantage of that is like old fashioned hard work and enthusiasm and commitment. Like I showed up there ready to learn, ready to work hard, um, and really enthusiastic about supporting what the group was going to be able to do. And that got me not just through that summer, but they ended up hiring me back pretty much
Wow.
for the next couple of years while I was in school, and really allowed me,
Amazing.
it really funded my entire education.
Wow, amazing. So from there, like then like the path to law school was like took off like a rocket ship, or what would you say after that?
Yeah, it is more like I started my roundabout was all before school, but I was at community college for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
The After the first two, I applied to a bunch of schools. And my really, since I had started, I wanted to go to Berkeley.
Uh-huh.
Um, that that transferring to Berkeley had kind of always been what I really wanted to do. And
Mm-hmm.
at the end of 2 years, I ended up not having enough credits.
Hmm.
And so I got into some other schools and had to make a choice about whether to stay or not. And ultimately, I decided to stay for a third year. And I took just a couple classes at night and then worked at Genentech,
Hmm.
reapplied, and went to Berkeley.
Hmm.
Got in the next year. And that was
Yeah.
huge for me.
Yeah.
Uh, I was there for 2 years, studied political economy, which for me was great. It was kind of like the mix of political science and economics, which is what I'd been wanting to study. And I knew at that point, that by the end of my senior year, that I wanted to go to law school. And so I began the
Hmm.
process to apply.
Hmm.
And there was nowhere else I wanted to go than Berkeley at that point, too. And so when I got in, I was incredibly excited and just kind of continued that path.
Yeah, interesting. So do you feel like the junior college thing like really prepared you for Berkeley? I mean, I mean, what did you think?
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. So
Huh.
I showed up to um, community college, like I said, needing a lot of remedial prep. And so I remember my first English class writing an essay and thinking I did a great job and it getting a very low grade. But
Hmm.
the teacher was incredibly committed. She's like, no, no, there's some potential here. There's some opportunity. And so she
Hmm.
showed me that, or she helped me understand that, that first grade really didn't matter. When I got to Berkeley, I had a very similar experience. Like
Hmm.
the game was noticeably higher level.
Yeah.
I started there. I'll never forget this. I started in a math class that was for engineering and science students because the version for social studies was full.
Hmm.
And my first exam, it was my only exam in Berkeley at the time. I got a 6 out of 50, which meant I got one question halfway right, basically.
Wow. Wow.
And I had the very same experiences, but I'd been through that, right? Like I had that
Yeah.
experience when I was
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
community college. And so I took my paper, I went down to the tutoring center and I spent, the next 3 months being tutored by by 18-year-old geniuses to help me with my math class.
Yeah.
Uh, so the in terms of like academics, noticeably harder, exactly what you would expect and want from that part of it. But at the same time, like I had gone through something very similar
Yeah, interesting.
at
Well,
community
what
college.
about law school? When you got to law school, was it like, I mean, did it feel like very right to you? Did you feel like you had made the right career choice? Did it feel like, this was a good decision?
Yes. So yes is a short answer. I loved law school.
Mm,
Um, I had been in undergrad, right? I'd been a transfer student, a commuter student. I'd been
right.
working, like my attention was always divided. Law school really was the first time, as like an adult that I kind of put everything to the side and just focused on school and the fun parts of school that come along with it. So a lot of law school is learning how to think like a lawyer and
Mm,
um, redoing the way that you write. Um, looking at cases, it's hard, but there's a big social component to it that I had really been missing out on
yeah, right.
for my undergrad experience. And so I really took advantage of that opportunity and did journals and clubs and competitions and all this kind of stuff that I just had a lot of fun in while I was there.
Now, when you went to law school, did you have an idea of what kind of lawyer you wanted to become, or not really?
Yes, I had a very strong, well, I would say I had a strong idea, um, but I was trying to test other things. So my
Mhm.
1L summer, I went to law school thinking I was going to be an IP transactions lawyer.
Which is what you
And
were doing at Genentech, basically.
exactly,
Yeah.
right? So I thought that that's what I was going to do.
Hmm.
And for my 1L job, I I wanted to try litigation
Hmm.
to just confirm what I had been doing and thinking, if what I was doing was right. And so I worked 1L summer at a law firm named Gibson Dunn.
Hmm.
Had an awesome summer. Worked on a lot of really cool cases. Met a lot of really great people. My second summer, I went to Ropes and Gray to do this kind of IP licensing transactional work.
Hmm.
And what was funny, or like what ended up happening, is I went there to kind of focus on IP and life sciences, but they had this growing area of cybersecurity
Oh, interesting.
that the people I went to work with were all then now moving towards. So they had been IP lawyers and were moving towards cybersecurity because as a new field evolves, there's a gap and people jump into it from all different sides.
Of
People jump in
course.
as litigators, people jump in from IP, people
Yep.
jump in from privacy. And that was all just in its very nascent stages at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it was really exciting.
Oh, interesting. So then you kind of just grabbed the bull by its horns and then made that your basically your career focus, your expertise focus.
Yeah, so I walked out. So by the time, so I did a little bit of it during my summers. When I came out of law school, I pretty much walked into the target data breach litigation.
Oh, wow.
And it was an incredible opportunity because uh, I got to dive through kind of the technical aspects as to how the breach happened, got to help with internal investigation, depositions, a lot of writing. The judge set this really fast discovery schedule,
Mm.
and so which was incredibly lucky for me because they never had time to bring in someone more senior to do things that someone more senior maybe should be doing. And
Yeah.
so I learned incredibly quickly,
Wow.
uh, like the entire life cycle of a data breach case.
Wow.
And when I was done, there was just so much opportunity there that nobody was knew how to or wanted to take advantage of. And
Mm.
so pretty much anybody who wanted to put their foot in cybersecurity, I said, "Oh yeah, I'll help you. Like, let me. How can we work together?"
Interesting. Well, fast forward to now, your partner, obviously. What is your practice? Are you mostly litigator or you do mostly advisor work or mix? Or describe to me your practice now today.
Yeah, so I am a cybersecurity lawyer. I spend my days responding to data breaches. So I come in that moment of crisis and work with execs and cybersecurity teams and IT teams and crisis communication firms to solve the myriad problems that are created when a company gets hacked.
Interesting.
Uh, the other part of my practice are kind of at the ends of that. So helping companies prepare and try to mitigate cyber risk on the front end. And then also doing regulatory enforcement work that stems from data breaches.
Oh, interesting. So, do you miss doing the IP transactional work that you never got a chance to do, or did you regret that you?
No, I mean, crisis management has always, like, I was incredibly lucky in a couple ways. So cybersecurity, I had been in law school thinking about, oh, do I want to do IP like transactions? Do I want to do litigation? I don't really know. Cybersecurity was really a place for me to be able to do both for
Yeah,
a long
right.
time, and I did. I don't
Yeah,
like I have a smaller role in litigation now, but um I was able for a long time to kind of have this mix. I did cybersecurity related transactions. I did cybersecurity related lit enforcement, and it kind of allowed me to get the diversity that I wanted.
yeah.
But at its core, like I love crisis response, and I somehow managed to find my way into what was a great fit.
That's so cool. Does Sam Liu know about the influence they had on your life and how he set you on this course?
He definitely does.
Okay.
I've reached back out a few times and talked to him and try to help others at West Valley by sharing this story because you know my experience, like I would not be where I am today without what happened at West Valley. And
Yeah,
it's not just like Sam is a huge part of it and connected me with a job, but there were lots of other professors who, if they hadn't have invested the time outside of like the classroom in me, I would not be where I am. And
yeah,
that experience is critical to where I am.
yeah. Well, Joe, it's a super cool story. And like I said, when I saw it in your background, I knew I had to talk to you about it. So I really appreciate your taking time and congratulations on all your success.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And thank you very much for having me. It was great to be here.
This is Richard Hsu and Joe Santiesteban. Thanks.